Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Football Show, powered by the Rangers Ravel podcast. A bit of an impromptu one, actually, but delighted to be on nonetheless. It is, as the title describes, a reaction to the Euro 2024 draw, which was finished in Hamburg. If you haven't caught it, don't worry, we're going to go through it in a bit more detail. And delighted, as always, to say that I'm joined by Connor as well. Connor, how are we doing?
Aye, not bad. An interesting draw that we've got to pick through there, I must say. But I think it's always the case now the draw's been done. I'm just looking forward to the summer now, to get there and see how we get on.
A Rangers Rabble Sharabang, I think, might be an offer, but we'll see what happens in the coming months. Listen, a star-studded draw just before we actually get into it. Brian Laudrup there, of course, which was great to see. Other names such as David Silva and Wesley Sneijder and Steve McManaman, even he was there as well. As usual, UEFA pulling out all the stops and turning it into more of a BAFTA awards than a football draw. But nonetheless, Scotland have been drawn against the host nation, Germany, which we'll play in the opening game, which we'll touch on in a wee moment as well, and we'll be joined in there by the Hungarians and Switzerland. So, Connor, initial reaction to the group?
An interesting one, I think. We're never going to get necessarily an easy group, simply because we're not England. And the nature of being in pot three, these are the connotations. Of course, there were some teams in pot three that you're quite happy that you're avoiding as well. So, look, it's an exciting group. I was saying there before we come on, it's different teams for us to play against. It's different challenges, which I always like. Because you do, I think part of what maybe makes people feel a bit laboured with the national team is when they are coming up against the same teams. And all these draws, for a while there, we couldn't get rid of Israel, and then it was Ukraine for a bit. And you want a bit of different, competition in there. And I think that's what we've got. I don't think it's a group that's impossible for us to get out of. I'll be the first to say I don't absolutely know a lot about Hungary and Switzerland, but I know enough about both teams to know that we certainly have a chance of getting something from them. I mean, listen, Switzerland were in the pot below us, in the draw. That's got to count for something to show where we are. And vice versa. I don't think any of those three teams will relish having to play us either. I think for Germany, the opening game being against us, I mean, that's going to be a barnstormer. And the challenge for us is to get up to that, because that's a massive occasion. They'll have the bells and whistles, the opening ceremonies, and the crowd will be absolutely bang up for that in Munich, without shadow of a doubt. They'll be right up for it. And we've got to kind of sort of blank that out a little bit and just focus on ourselves. The Tartan Army will be there in full voice as well. So I think certainly in terms of the tournament as a whole, and even if you were in neutral, there are worse games that could kick off a major international tournament, you've got to say. And Germany, they aren't the team they once were. I know they've kind of brought back Joachim Low, I think, to try and, I guess, recapture some of the former glories they had, but they're a team that can be beaten, and they've not had any competitive games for a while either. So I think it's a group I'm looking forward to seeing how we do, and mainly to see how we've learnt for the last time, because it was a similar style group the last time where, apart from England, the other two we had weren't absolute, and on paper at least, out there world beater teams that were going to really cause you'd feel that you didn't have a chance against. So it's about doing that this time, and maybe not playing at Hampden twice is taking some pressure off us too. So no, as I say, I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, it's never a good time to get Germany, never, but certainly they're not in the great form they have been in. I think it's Julian Nagelsmann actually that's
Nagelsmann. Sorry,
of the German side. After turning down approaches from some Premier League clubs in the summer, reportedly. But the host nation, they'll have a huge backing in the stands come the first game. And as you say, it's a group that sort of shows maybe that you want to be testing yourselves against these teams, and if you're going to get anywhere, then you're going to have to beat one of them.
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, and where I suppose it helps is the fact that if you're one of the the top 4 finishing teams, then you do qualify for the knockout stages anyway, in terms of third place. So, seen it before. 1 win can be enough, as long as you're not getting scalped in the other 2 games. And I don't think we will. So we've got to look at that and identify any of these teams and think, okay, even if you look at Germany opening day and all that and think, good time to get them, but in some ways pressure's off us a bit. It's more on them, so you can approach that in the vein of a sort of free hit, if you like, in terms of whatever the result there is. Your primary focus is always going to be Hungary and Switzerland anyway, and I think both teams they're eminently beatable for us to go and get results against. We can't go and intimidated against them, and knowing that 1 win can get you there is so important. That the door is open for us to finally get into a knockout stage, just by the nature of how it works nowadays, making it easier. I think if it was only 2 teams guaranteed to qualify, I think you'd be worried potentially. But I think there's every chance that we can do it. We've just got to rise to the occasion, and not get overawed by it, because I think that's probably what happened the last time out. But that was the first tournament that a lot of these players had played in for us. We broke that duct. We're now in a second tournament. Now's the time to show that bit more experience about you, that you've learnt more from it. Hungary are a side who, much like us, have a mixed past when it comes to qualifying for tournaments. They're not in every tournament, Hungary. They've qualified for a couple in recent times, and they've certainly been a lot better than they have in the past. I think they were even in a World Cup, so they're no mugs. But again, there's every chance we can get the results. I'm sure when you pick the bones out and you look at other groups and other teams in there that you could have got, I'm sure there's plenty of teams that we can look at and go, yeah, we'd have preferred them. But it's Scotland. We don't do it the easy way, so we were never going to get it the easy way, unfortunately. But I think it's all to play for us. I really do.
Listen, if anybody's wondering what I'm doing here, the dog is joined me. I don't know if you saw him earlier, and then if I throw his toy, he'll no bark and he'll interrupt the podcast as much as he would if he was barking away. So, listen, I think as well, just to touch on the point you make about the last Euros, different complexion on this one. The stands are going to be full. I think there's going to be more supporters there as well. I just think it's going to be a bit more of a tournament feel as the last one. Obviously, the restrictions were still in place, etc. So, okay. Just to move away slightly from Germany, you've touched on Hungary a little bit as well. Who I managed to catch the last game of qualifying, and I was hugely impressed by them. And I hope I'm saying his name probably. Is it Sabowitsa, who plays for Liverpool? He looks the star man, poster boy, Hungarian football at the moment, and they seem to play with a real pace and movement in the attacking areas as well. So Steve Clarke's going to have a job on taking those guys on. The Swiss have qualified, I know in second place, but they were level on points with Romania, who won the group. It was just goal difference who saw them finish second as well. So there's no mugs at this level, right?
No, absolutely not. Any team who's in a major finals are there for a reason. So there certainly isn't any mugs, as you say, particularly for us. Given that we're a sort of middle of the pack, mid-range kind of side, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's we're very good, but clearly there are plenty of teams who you would put in a sort of world class bracket and say are really good. I think we're kind of looking at Switzerland, and to be fair to them, they're a team who they always do relatively well in major tournaments in terms of they always get out of their group. It's usually that sort of next hurdle that they struggle with. Like, I don't think they've ever managed to get past a last 16 at World Cup, for example. I can't remember the last time they get out a quarter final of the Euros either. So, but they're a very reliable, solid group team. And you can't forget as well, when you're talking about Sabitzer for Hungary, of course, you've got Granit Xhaka for Switzerland. And, we've all seen what he can do when he was at Arsenal. Now he's tearing up in a very, very good Bayer Leverkusen side who will be, up there battling away in Germany to try and wrestle Bayern Munich's crown off them. Don't think they will, but that's where they are as a side. So, and he's been a very valuable part of that. So again, it's key players that you're looking at. But with all these teams, there's always that one player. You go, That's going to be tough. I know they've had other players in the past. I don't know if maybe Xherdan Shaqiri, another former Premier League player. I'm not sure if he's still playing or not. I assume he is. So again, another one to watch out for. But we've got players of our own that can harm these teams. We've got guys in there like John McGinn, who know what they're doing. Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney. That's the key part for us, I think, is making sure we get there with everybody fit and available and intact. Because that's important. We don't have, I don't think, the kind of pool for Steve Clarke to pick from. Should he get one or two people out, it then becomes more difficult. So I think everybody being fit is a key aspect. But, we've outlined there, everybody's got their key men in these groups. For Switzerland, it's obviously Xhaka and possibly Shaqiri. Hungary have got Sabitzer. Germany, obviously, they do have some pretty good players. You can't deny. You got big Thomas Muller, who always, poses a threat for anybody. And I think probably, as I said there, our best players are probably, Tierney, Robertson and McGinn. You can maybe throw one or two others in there as well. But in terms of key men that they'll maybe be looking at, that I imagine would be who they'd be most concerned by. So it's got to see what happens. Scott McTominay's a great shout there for Paul. The form he's been on in recent times, he'll certainly not shy away from it. And he was the slayer of the Spaniards at Hampden Park. Maybe he can go and pull off some more of that McTominay magic again against one of these sides. Hopefully, I think, to be fair, they're all going to be absolutely terrific games of football.
Yeah, no doubt in that. Shaqiri, just to touch on, he's in the MLS. I think he's at DC United, if memory serves me right. But I think he played in the qualifying campaigns. I'm sure he will be selected. They can't be affording to leave players out like him. And obviously, let's not forget Said the Ted. He's been playing well for young boys, and everyone's sort of raving about him in the comments. But by the way, delighted you are joining us in the comments, because it's great to see. It evokes some memories from people. People recall McCoy's goal at Villa Park against the Swiss. And being in the opening game, I know it was World Cup at France '98, and rushing home from school and watching these games on TV. So I'm loving all the memories that are coming in. If you are watching on YouTube, as always, like and subscribe. It does help the podcast as well, and in particular this show. And we're trying to grow the show as well. So
there is another player we should mention for Switzerland, simply because he currently plays in arguably the best team in the world in Man City. They've got Manuel Akanji as well, Switzerland, who is a fantastic defender. So again, another player to keep our eye on and watch out for when these things come around. But as I say, that's the nature of the beast when you go into these tournaments. There's no shrinking violets, as they say. So it'll be interesting. But on paper, people might go, "Oh, Hungary, Switzerland, they don't watch you." They've definitely got players who can hurt you.
100%. Listen, Paul's put his prediction in there. Paul, hang fire on the predictions. We'll come to them at the end for Scotland's group, because we want to just touch on the rest of the draw and what it looks like for the other clubs. So, should we say so? Group B is probably the group of death, is it not? Connor, Spain, Croatia, Italy, Albania.
I tell you what, that is the group of death. I must say. I think we can be happy that we've avoided that particular group. Of course, we'd have had to have replaced Croatia in it because we're on the same pot as them, right enough. But that's such a hard one to call. I mean, Spain, I think, will probably be the happier of the four teams in that group, because they'll look at Croatia and Italy and Albania and think, yeah, they're all winnable for us. Italy aren't quite where they were even a couple of years ago when they won the Euros. They've kind of scraped in right at the death against Ukraine. Slightly controversial fashion as well, as you pointed out beforehand, that Ukraine were denied a penalty in the dying embers of that one that could have completely changed the complexion. But their ties are just bound to be, I put it this way, if I was still a betting man, I wouldn't be putting a coupon on any games in that group, because they're all capable. Albania are the rank outsiders in that group, but they're no mugs. And I'm telling you now, don't know what game it will be, but they will cause an upset. They will take something off of somebody in that group. Possibly Croatia, because they're an aging side. I think Luka Modric will become the first Croatian player to partake in 5 different Euros, which is impressive. You've got to say the longevity he's got, and you would think this will be his last. So that might add a bit of spice for Croatia. It might give them a bit of extra motivation to go as far as they can, knowing that Luka Modric is probably not going to be there in 4 years' time. So can they give him a bit like Messi for Argentina in the World Cup? Can he get the romantic send off, if you will? And of course, Italy and Spain, they speak for themselves. That's a glamour tie, no matter what form either side are on. It's always going to be a glamour tie, and that's what you want in these tournaments. I think you don't want boring groups that don't give you those real good occasions that you're looking for, and that's going to be one of them. As I say, Albania I don't know much about, but I know that they're not mugs, and that they're there on merit. They've been there before. I think 2016 they qualified. This is the second time they've ever been in. And if I was Spain, Croatia, and Italy, I wouldn't be sleeping on them. I wouldn't be overlooking them at all.
Well, listen, let's move on to a friendly neighbours, our rivals, England. They were drawn with Slovenia, Denmark, and Serbia. Obviously, they beat Denmark in the Euros to get to the final 2 years ago. What do you want to call it? 1 year ago, 2 years ago. It's a bit messy, isn't it? For the pardon me for the COVID situation, but certainly England. You were talking before we came on here. Gareth Southgate carries a rabbit's foot around with him because he keeps getting these draws.
Aye, listen, he must lie in a bed of 4-leaf clovers or something as well, because the draws he's had in these tournaments in group stages has been exceptionally kind to him. And that's not just me as a Scotsman saying that, because we hate England. If you listen to a lot of the sensible pundits down in England as well, they've said the same thing. That the test for them has always been when they've actually, get out of their group and come up against a team that are just as good as they are, or there or thereabouts, and that's when they always seem to falter. So I don't envisage they'll have any problems getting out of that group. Look, I wouldn't. I'm not sitting here overlooking Serbia, Denmark, or Slovenia and thinking, England are going to go and win 5-0 in every game. We've seen in recent times that they're capable of having some tough games, drawn in North Macedonia, scraping a 2-0 win against Malta at home, which really, in both those games, was just a 1 goal they scored because they had 2 own goals go for them. So they're capable of having off games, but you'd have to say, with the squad of players that they've got, if everybody's fit and firing, if you've got Harry Kane in there, Jude Bellingham, guys like that, they're going to be massive favourites, not just for that group, but for the tournament as well. I think you're probably looking at them in France and thinking that's probably the 2 strongest teams sitting in the group, certainly on paper, or in the tournament. But again, a draw like that, they'll be delighted. They've avoided every single one of the big problem teams they could have got, because as I mentioned before it, and we'll come on to some of the other groups, the way that the draw was working out, pots 2 and 3 certainly had a few trickier opponents that could have been in there for England, and they've avoided that, so they'll be happy. I think Denmark certainly could cause them 1 or 2 wee problems. Denmark played them, as you say, a couple of years ago in the semi-final. In my opinion, Denmark were robbed in said semi-final, because we can't forget that England got a penalty via a Raheem Sterling blatant dive right towards the end of extra time that broke the hearts of the Danes, unfortunately, after they had been frankly superb for that game. I mean, watching that game, the free kick they scored, a terrific free kick, and they really put up a good fight when their backs were against the wall. So I'm sure they won't overlook Denmark. That's the first game they play, I believe. I think that's in Cologne. I think it is. They'll play them there. So yeah, they'll be thrilled with that. And as I say, I expect they will top that group, and then it's all about whatever path they end up getting to the final. Really, for there.
It's safe to say that come the tournament kicking off, the players that will be picked they'll be in a different vein of form than they are as we sit right now, because they'll be motoring towards the business end of the leagues. They'll be in a better shape in terms of physical fitness, you'd imagine. So they'll all be gunning for tournament football and looking to make a name for themselves, because this is where players can get big moves. We've seen players before have a good tournament, and then off the back of that they get a big money move elsewhere. So it'll be interesting to watch how that develops. Other side of the draw then, featuring some playoff path winners, which Conor will go through kindly because he knows all the names of these lovely nations. So Group D is the playoff winner of Path A. They'll join Holland, or the Netherlands, what we want to call them, Austria and France. Now, you did say as well before we came on here that has the potential to be a right ding-dong of a group as well, depending on who falls in there.
It absolutely does. As I say, Holland and France played each other in the qualifying stages for this. The Dutch finishing runners-up to the French. Of course, France are clear favourites. I think they're favourites for the tournament. Totally agree with Ian Hamilton there. I think just man for man, right now, France are the best national team in the world. There's no getting away from that. Okay, technically it's Argentina because they won the World Cup, but France were very close. And with guys like Mbappe, if they're there, it's frightening how good they are. But France v Holland is a real one to look out for. And what I would say in terms of the playoff path for Path A that could drop in there, you've got a pick of Poland, Wales, so our Celtic cousins, Finland, or Estonia. Now, clearly, I'd say Estonia would be the outsiders to get there, but you never know. Whoever those teams are, they're going to have to go through grueling playoffs in March. I think it's the 21st of March, and then their grand prize, should they manage to get through at the end of it, is to drop into that group. It's a stinker for whoever gets in there. Personally, and some might disagree with me, I'd like it to be Wales, because I like to see the home nations do well, apart from England. And Wales have shown previously that they do add a lot to these tournaments. What I would say for any of these teams get in there, they will look at Austria and they'll think, okay, as I mentioned earlier, getting third can get you through. So if you have okay games against France and the Netherlands, you can beat Austria, which I think most 3 out of 4 of those teams would have every chance of doing. Then why not? But that group really does have the potential to be some group, depending who falls into it.
Well, you obviously mentioned as well that France and Holland have been part of that qualification group as well. I think Holland couldn't get the better of France on both occasions there. So it'll be interesting to see how that one develops in Germany in the summer. Okay, then on to Group E. Belgium with a slightly kinder draw, you'd have to say, with Slovakia, Romania, and then the playoff winner of Path B.
Yep.
The Belgians, I know the last game was against, was it Kazakhstan? One of the, you would say, of European football. However, they were pretty impressive. I really like Doku of Man City. I think he's got a lot to offer, and I'll be keen to keep an eye on him during the tournament for sure. What do you make of this group? Is there only going to be one winner?
Oh, aye, 100%. But barring some sort of bizarre turn of events, Belgium will get out of that group quite comfortably. They've got too much firepower there. I know a lot of people say, well, the golden generation for Belgium's kind of been and gone sort of thing, which you could argue, because certainly, a few years ago, you were backing them as a team that could go on and win one of these tournaments under Roberto Martinez. Sadly, that wasn't to be the case for them. But they've still got quality players there. You've still got the likes of Lukaku, who will absolutely be a major problem for anybody up front. I know that they won't have, I suspect that they won't have Kevin De Bruyne. I'm pretty sure he's finished in terms of international stuff. Although, if they do, again, you're talking quality players here. Of course, a fresh manager in as well. A first tournament for them under new management since Martinez left. Dominic Tedesco former RB Leipzig manager. He done a brilliant job there, which is why he got poached by the Belgians to take over. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see how they go, because I haven't seen much of them under Tedesco. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of the differences are between them, because I think what they do need to do, Belgium, in this tournament that they maybe didn't do in the past, is when they do get out the group and they come against an knockout stage path with quarterfinals, semi-finals, that they need to find a way to be better in the bigger games, because they've been let down, I think, with some performances there. We've seen them play France in the World Cup in 2018, and that was the real peak for me, the Belgian golden generation. That was the one you looked at and went, if they can win this game, they go on and win this tournament, Belgium. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. France didn't just get the better, and they kind of steamrolled them. So it'll be interesting, but no, that's a group they should comfortably win. Slovakia, Romania. Romania would have been a team I'd have fancied for Scotland to play. Of course, we've got our boy Yanis Hadji, who'll be making his appearance. So I hope all the best for him. And just to let the people know, in case they don't, the team who can drop in from playoff path B, two familiar foes for Scotland actually in there. You've got Israel, Ukraine, Bosnia Herzegovina, and Iceland, the infamous slayers of England back at Euro 2016. So again, whoever drops in will think actually good group, because apart from Belgium, if you're one of those four teams, why would you not fancy your chances again in Romania? It'd be very much evenly matched out, I think, between those sides. So that's not the worst group in the world for them to have to drop into, I must say.
No, listen, you've made some great points, and your knowledge is just astounding me, Colin, tonight. It's been fantastic. And I stand corrected, it wasn't Kazakhstan, it was Azerbaijan. So the Belgians rattled in that last qualification game. So Group F, the last remaining group, it's got Turkey, playoff winners of Path C, Portugal, and the artist formerly known as the Czech Republic, Czechia. I hope I've said that right. But that'll be Czech Republic to you and I. Again, Scotland fans should be formidable with that side. Conor, Portugal, you touched on Roberto Martinez before. They are a side in fine form. And by the way, I must say, Roberto Martinez is looking really well. He looks like Portugal has been treating him lovely. He's got a lovely tan, and he's looking fine. But certainly, Portugal, not only would I say are favourites for this group, but they've got to be dark horses for the tournament.
Absolutely. Listen, never ever write Portugal off. They did win the Euros not too long ago. Portugal 2016. They took on France in their own backyard and they won. So you never ever overlook a team like that. Of course, we know some of the quality players they've got. Bruno Fernandes in there, who I understand gets some flack from Manchester United quarters because he maybe has some off games here or there, and as captain that's going to happen, but he's a quality player. There's no getting away from that. Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, he'll want to, because again, he's another one that, let's be brutally honest here, this is his last Euros. I think, sad as that is to say, because he's one of the world's best, I still think Messi's better, but that's a subjective conversation for another time. But it will be the last that we'll see Ronaldo in one of these tournaments, because 4 years from now, he'd be, 41, 42? So, they'll be looking, he'll certainly, after seeing what Messi done a couple of years ago, the competition that's between the two of them personally, he'll absolutely want that moment to finish it all off with as well, because he'll not see another World Cup. So this is his World Cup, if you like, to go and win a second Euros out of three with Portugal would be remarkable. And Martinez is, he's a top manager who, as I say, I think, just didn't quite get all the way with Belgium, but he's got the tools there and he's got the players at Portugal that can do that for him. So they're a team to watch out for. They'll not have any problem in that group, with Czechia Turkey, or indeed the Path C teams who can drop in, who I'll speak about in a minute. But I think Turkey and Czechia are interesting ones because, to me, they're probably the two I'm looking at going. It's a tussle between them for that second spot, realistically, because I don't think there's an awful lot to split the two of them apart in terms of just the quality that the sides have got. We've obviously had our experiences with Czechia in the last Euros, so familiar enough with them. And the Path C teams that can drop in are either Georgia, another old foe of ours, Greece, Kazakhstan, or Luxembourg. Now, you've got to look at that and say it will be Greece or Georgia who are going to drop in there, surely. Just purely on paper. I mean, if it's Luxembourg, fair play. But I don't see that being the case. So again, it's interesting. Georgia aren't mugs. We've seen that. We played them twice. We got that draw just recently against Georgia. I know that's not always a measuring stick because it's just a bogey place for us to go to Tbilisi. But again, if I'm Turkey and I'm Czechia, Georgia's probably the last team I want dropping in there with me. If I'm honest with you, I think even Greece obviously as well, but I really think that will throw the right spanner in the works, and could be a telling point for who gets through. But again, Portugal should be delighted because they should romp that group. They shouldn't have any issues whatsoever in that group, and then they can look forward into the knockouts, into the quarter-final, and try and go and lift the Euros again.
Listen, Connor, as I say, brilliant insight. Let's just turn our attentions back to our own group. So, Group A, Germany, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland. If you're just joining us, there was a really good comment there I want to bring up from Blue Nose John from the Frankfurt Loyal. I'm a Scot with a German nationality, so he cannot wait for this game. Brilliant, John. Thanks for that comment. That's great to hear, and hopefully you'll join us during the Euros. Well, I'm sure we'll have a couple of shows for the games coming up. Connor, I just want your prediction really of first and foremost, do you see us progressing for the first time ever, by the way, and get out of the group?
I think it's going to be really difficult, but I think we'll do it. Yeah, I really do. I think this group of players has shown that their ability to step up. They've shown, I think, real grit and determination at times as well in certain games where, you look back to what happened in Oslo and what's just happened in Tbilisi. They don't know when they're beat, and that's a real good, quality to have as a side. And I think having that and the kind of quality we've got, I think we'll qualify. I will caveat that by saying I think chances are we'll probably qualify via the mechanism of finishing third rather than second. So that, of course, would give us probably an exceedingly hard tie should we get to the quarterfinals, but we can worry about that one nearer the time. But no, I think we will, because I think we can certainly get a result off of either Hungary or Switzerland or both. I think, if I'm honest, I think we're capable of getting 4 points out of Hungary and Switzerland. And I can tell you for a fact that will be enough to get us through, because in every single Euro, in the last 3 Euros that this has been a thing, that points total has got you through. So I think we will do it. I may be wrong on what my predictions have been when it comes to the scores and that in the league. So, but no, I think we'll do it, Robert.
A lot of people saying that we'll get the result against Germany, and with the other two that will be the banana skins for us, which would be typical Scotland. But listen, I'm really looking forward to that own game, and obviously seeing who we select on the way there. Just on terms of I'm conscious of time, and we've got a podcast on tomorrow for the Rangers game certainly, but the tournament itself, who do you see is the group winners? The competition winners. Who do you see as the dark horses, and just a couple of players that you're looking forward to seeing, Connor?
Yeah, well, I think competition winners, I think will be France. I think they're just at this moment in time, as I said earlier, best team in the world right there, and they'll take some stopping. And what they don't have to contend with this time out, like they did in the World Cup, is the fairy tale story of Argentina and Messi and all that came with that, and the pressures that were bound upon them, and So they'll not have that. They're the clear favourites for me, and I think they will go on and win it. In terms of dark horses, well, you touched on Portugal. I think they're real dark horses, I must say. But I always like to throw maybe a wee different one in, just for the shits and giggles, I suppose. And I'll say that I think the Dutch could have a good tournament. Whether they go and win it, I don't know, but I think they could certainly be dark horses. I wouldn't sleep on them. Particularly with that solid backline that they've got as well. You've got Ake in there, you've got Virgil van Dijk, quality players, even in the middle of the park, guys like Giorgio Wijnaldum. They've got quality about them. It's whether or not they can, Louis van Gaal can get that properly out of them. Because I think they'll be disappointed with how they performed in the World Cup last year, to be honest with you, because I don't think it was a great tournament for them. But I'd have them as ones to look out for, certainly. Is my dark horse pick. What about you, Robert? You might as well also give us your...
I don't know if it's going to be popular, but I might. I think England tournament football seem to have something about them in terms of progression, and they know how to get through. You touch on players. Jude Bellingham is somebody who I've just loved watching since obviously playing against us in the Europa League. He just really stands out. So England, yeah, but the Danes as well. I think they're always there or thereabouts in terms of being competitive and bringing players to the front, the forte as well. So, but I think Portugal would be my standout aside from France. The Germans, I'm hoping don't turn up because I'd like to see us progress. Hungarians as well. Look aside, so it's all in the melting pot. I don't fancy the Dutch to go against you slightly there. I would, and I don't fancy the Italians either. I didn't see enough of them in that game against Ukraine that I'd be worried about. Spain, again, they're sort of hit and miss, aren't they? So depending if Spain turns up. But no, listen, really looking forward to it. I'm glad the draw is out there. We can look forward to the games. I'm sure people are going to be plotting their journeys and plotting what games they're going to. I know Lee from the podcast, he managed to get tickets in the ballot, and I think it was for Spain and Croatia would be the game that he's going to. So listen, it's all going off. Curry Munch are really not happy that I'm sat here in a Scotland shirt talking about the draw for Scotland for the Euros, which is incredible. But there we have it. Is the joy of the Scottish football show sometimes, Connor. Listen, thanks for joining me. It's this hour. I know you guys are snowed in up there. Some might say, has it been bad in Cumbernauld?
Oh yeah, aye. It's pretty bad up here. Just seemed to happen overnight. I must say, I went to bed last night. There was never like a snow to be seen, and then all of a sudden, bang! Snow everywhere. So aye, we shall see.
Listen, one place there won't be snow is Germany next summer. It'll be red hot. The talent will be out in force, and I'm sure we'll have a sterling time of it. So really looking forward to it. As I say, the podcast is back tomorrow, all Rangers related. We've got the build-up show and then the reaction as well. So really looking forward to that. So stay tuned if you are snowed in, something for you to watch alongside the match. Connor, thanks for joining me. As I say, have a pleasant evening. Thanks for joining us in the comments as well. Enjoy your night. Thanks very much.
Cheers.